Good evening and welcome to Telling Tales. Here we tell atmospheric stories together through the medium of tabletop role-playing games. It's Monday night and we are playing Shadows of Esteren. We are currently working our way through the lovely prologue book here, which is available to download for free, I believe, on DriveThruRPG or probably other online RPG sites. We've had a couple of weeks off, but we're excited to get back into it. So below the video are links to our YouTube if you're watching on Twitch, or Twitch if you're watching later on YouTube, our social media, our Discord, which you should join and come and chat to us, and our lovely community of viewers and collaborators and other pleasant words. And also a link to our Patreon. So if you enjoy what we're doing, you can contribute there to support us and receive numerous wonderful, pleasant things in return. Other things that we do on the channel are we have Simba Room, which is our longest running series, which runs on a Wednesday. And also a different one-shot every month, often on the first Saturday of the month. So this year we've done Cyberpunk and Tales from the Loop. And the next one I'm going to be running on the Saturday, the 16th of April. Still to be announced what that's going to be. It's exciting. So let's do a recap from the previous session. Let's bring on Inga, who plays Sophia the Varigal. Hi, Inga. Give us a bit of a flavour from the last session. I know it was a couple of weeks ago.
So we had arrived at Loch Varn and we were trying to figure out what was going on. So we ended up at a village sort of town hall meeting with a lot of the village there. And they'd asked us to kind of recount what happened, what had been going on. I think Fulgur had kind of given a bit of a recap about things. Ragnar kind of showing up the papers that he'd found in his possession after we'd kind of woken up from the dream and all been a bit confused. And Fionn shared some of the memories up to the point that we'd all kind of agreed on up to the chapel. And it seemed like the village hadn't heard any of this stuff before. We hadn't already told them this info. Through the course of this kind of town hall meeting, more people eventually ended up remembering the dream by either seeing the Demorthen man from Fionn's dream and Fulgur recognizing the man that he'd killed in the dream. So we all had a bit of a moment kind of suddenly remembering that as well. The Demorthen guy definitely seemed to think the Magiantists were at fault for all this strange going on. He said that there'd been some activity, some Magiantists when he was younger, but he was the only one who really particularly remembered it. But there hadn't been any recent activity. They're pretty convinced that Magiants is the bad guy behind this. The rest of us are probably a bit less keen than Fulgur to reveal more of the details of exactly what we do and don't remember, and particularly the details of the dream. But this Demorthen guy is keen for us to go back to the ruins with him and a bodyguard. We're not super keen on doing this. And Fulgur tells him about the dream, like just to say we've had a kind of premonition about this rather than, full on recounting the tale, as kind of a bit of a way to try and deter him, but he's not put off by it at all. He's still keen that we go. But we kind of, once the town hall kind of ends, we agreed that we'll maybe go back to the chapel in the morning instead, given that's the last thing that we can all agree on in terms of our memories. And we all remember that the message about there being secrets at the chapel, and it seems like it was in the voice of this Demorthen man who'd been talking at the town hall, which is very curious indeed.
Very curious indeed. Thanks, Inga. So let's bring on Justin, who plays Fulgur the Knight.
Hello.
Hi, Justin.
Hello. I think I might be getting a bit of weird lag. Can you see me all right?
Yep, all fine.
Good. So Fulgur, who is the simple minded knight, very straightforward individual, takes things as they come. After all these kind of meetings, that when we were sleeping the night before, deciding what we're going to do next or going off and doing something else different, Fulga had a strange, mysterious dream in which they were visited by their cousin, a long-lost relative, who looked mysteriously like the person that Fulga killed in the previous dream, which then Fulga remembered all of. Dreams within dreams, And, he was very insistent that Fulga had killed him, and presenting his bloody form. The whole thing, could have been interpreted by some less devout individuals as maybe a negative experience. Being accused of murdering someone and murdering a close family member, for many, I think, would have been traumatic. But Fulga didn't accumulate any trauma from this. In fact, interpreted this, is probably a positive thing overall, in that it's very clear that this is some kind of message. These dreams are important, they're meaningful, that they mean something. And this was all confirmed when Fulga woke up, because the puzzle that we've been considering for some time, a puzzle that has some strange drawings on it and some strange words that we're linking together, that puzzle was on Fulga's bedside table, along with a trail of blood, which, Fulga mopped up as as a literal evidence of a divine miracle, and took this all as a really positive sign. This puzzle is important, and he's receiving messages that are incredibly important about this, about what's going on. Now, Steve is suggesting maybe that Fulga, knows something of his family's disappearance, but I want to remind everyone that Fulga has the alone character trait, and all of Fulga's family is lost to him. So, this long lost cousin was a bit of a surprise, but when Fulga's clear here, this is there's no suspiciousness here. He didn't murder his entire family. He doesn't know why. He didn't know what happened to them, and I think we should all just take Fulga's word on that. Unlike some members of the party, he hasn't been linked to any murders.
It's true. Let's bring on Steve.
That's a recap,
who plays Ragnar the Hunter.
Hello.
Hi, Steve. So, in the morning, apart from being weirded out by the fact that something previously in your possession had ended up somewhere else with blood on it, between you had a look at the puzzle.
Yes. Having looked at it properly, I guess, for the first time since we got it, now then, was it Sophia? I think it was Sophia that actually managed to recall a bit of information about it. We couldn't make head or tail of the top part, the symbols at the top there, but the Savelli's Passion, I think Sophia remembered that it was a famous anecdote relating to the founders of the Giants. So the Savellis were a couple who enjoyed rowboat rides, and they established the fundamental principles of the Giants. And where they did this was on, well, there are many rowboat trips, but one particularly where they rowed out to an island in a lake and had their main discussions on the Giants there. So it struck us that the lake, the Loch Varn, does indeed have a small island in the middle of it, and perhaps this might be a clue as to something significant on that island. And I think that's what we managed to determine from that.
Yeah, thank you. And then let's bring on Sam, who plays Fionn the Demorthan Mystic. And Sam, tell us what you decided to do and where you went at the end of last session.
Yeah, so I believe we were didn't really want to head straight on to this Magiantist's place, having no real further information about what's going on there, and feeling like definitely bad things are coming from there, and we're not really very safe to go do so. I think there was a genuine question about whether we should actually just go straight to the island on boat, but I think that would probably look even more suspicious to the people of Loch Varn. It's like, no,
Well,
we're
I think
not.
we were
Just gonna
halfway
go
to
for a row.
the.
Yeah, we'd head on that point too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we had decided in the end instead to go to the chapel, because basically I think we all agreed that that was the last place that things made some sense in kind of our collective memories of what had happened. Ever since then, everything was all over the place. So I think it was that, combined with the fact that my dream, I think other people now have remembered that they had this dream. I think that's correct. The final words of the dream that kind of stuck in my head were that, like, remember the chapel. It's important, basically along those lines. So it seems like it's important, and we should go have a look. So we did. It was an uneventful journey, and it was quite uneventful when we got there, I think. She did say how long we'd been away. I think it was like 3 or 4 days, if I remember correctly. Certainly more than what we remembered. But
I think it was about 6 days, because I
6
think
days.
Loch Varn said it'd been 3 or 4 days since we were last there at the villagers, and so
Oh,
we were
Inga,
surprised
our
it was
memories
even
are
longer
different.
again. Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, it's probably 6 days. But I don't think there was anything particularly conspicuous otherwise. That was obviously a surprise to us, but then she just kind of was, I can't remember if she was in mourning still. But no, it was kind of normal. She was just herself as she was. While everyone else was chatting to her, I decided to wander off and have a look around, feeling like there must be something to discover. And at first I didn't discover anything, but then I thought that was kind of a key moment to spend a survival point, of which we only have 3, and are quite important to not dying, as you probably guessed from the name too, to re-roll my whatever the roll was, searchy thing. And I did find something. I found, well, a hole in the ground. Well, I think I found the edge of a flagstone that looked not quite right, and it didn't quite look like it was sitting right, and I lifted it up, and indeed it led into an underground something chamber, but I haven't been in yet, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, just as a slight callback, it seems to be Sam's character's way to find flagstones that are slightly out of place, as that happened in the first Call of Cthulhu arc as well. So yes, you have found this loose flagstone and slightly shifted it, and you have found essentially some steps leading down below the chapel, while the rest of the group, I believe, is sort of consulting with Joan, the woman who was taking care of the chapel.
If it's me, I'm assuming it's me. I think the first thing I would do is look around completely still, make sure there's no one else there. No one has noticed me move this flagstone, and also I'm listening to see if I can hear any noise of someone or something going on underneath. Although it's a bit strange if someone would move the flagstone over the top of them. They might do.
There is... You don't... maybe a perception roll, actually.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's not very good. That's only a 7.
Okay, you don't hear anybody. You don't think anybody has noticed from your group or Joan that this stone has been moved.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear anybody under the ground, and you also don't think it looks like there is a light source down there.
Okay. Are there light sources like nearby me on the walls and things, or is nothing lit?
There's nothing lit here at the moment, but it's not night yet. So there are sort of brackets with torches in and stuff like that.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, even if it's just a candle I could grab, I might do that then. Something I could put back without it looking like it's been moved, though.
Yeah, there are plenty of candles around. You could probably take a handful without anybody ever noticing that those specific ones were gone, kind of thing.
Cool. I will do that then. Yeah. And then I guess one more look around. I will descend cautiously and see what I find.
Brave. Okay.
One more thing before I descend. Does it look like it's been made by a person, like the steps, or does it look like a tunnel, a giant insect made tunneling into somewhere? Because if that's the case, I'm not going in.
No, there are stone steps,
okay,
and it looks like it's sort of it looks akin to the existing building, so it looks as if it's been made here as part of the building, as opposed to being added later.
Okay,
If that makes sense,
I will,
it's all the same.
I will proceed. I will proceed.
Okay. What's everybody else doing?
Hey, let's all go fight Theon, guys.
I guess we're being oblivious, chatting to Joan.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I don't foresee Fulga even noticing that Theon isn't there. Just because of Fulga's general, completely godlessness.
Okay.
I mean,
so,
if a significant amount of time goes by and Theon remains absent, I'm sure Ragnar will eventually kind of wonder what Theon's doing. But
okay.
yeah.
Right, there are only about 20 steps down, so it's not too far down. Doesn't take very long. And you enter a room with a table, some shelves, and some papers. Can you make me a roll of a type of which I have not yet decided?
I think you probably could.
I don't know if this would be my sort of thing. Might be. There's a chance.
I think maybe an erudition roll.
Okay. I leveled up my erudition, so maybe.
Just in terms of deciding on, because there are a lot of papers here, basically, and it's a case of how quickly you can skim and decide what may be interesting or important for you to look at.
Very quickly. That's a 10. Didn't double up, but that gives me 15 in total.
Great. Okay. So I've got a bunch of things to put up on screen, which I'll also read out.
Yay. That's a good roll to make. Finding things that go up on screen is always a good sign. They've got to be important story-wise if they're on screen, right?
Good story-wise, not necessarily for the character.
Yes.
Just images of
Okay. Register of the Temple, year 853. So we're in 907, I think I said, just for your reference. Births. This year, the community had the joy of 24 new births. Loch Varn is starting to show more openness for the path of the Creator, and I could bless 5 of these newborns. Unfortunately, 11 of them died during the year, but only one of the blessed children was called back by the One. I hope that this sign will be perceived as such by the inhabitants, and that they will let me bless even more children in order to protect them from the many ills threatening them. Conversions remain difficult in this region, but over the course of the year, 3 persons have come to ask me to make them faithful of our holy church. I had the joy of hosting a group of vectors, bearers of the word, in a break from a journey of several months across the whole of Towel Care.
Okay.
And as an addendum to that is something that won't let me share it.
I think we might need to get some stats on those survival rates. I'm not 100% sure that that's a statistically significant improvement.
There we go. So yeah, this is a notes addendum on the bottom of that page. This year was marked by an increase in the Magiantist experiments in the region. The authorities of Towel Care should be more careful and not yield to the laws of riches from the Rajite universities financing these operations. I know to what extremes the Magiantists go in our country of Gwydra. The relations have turned sourer in the Vale. Tensions are still gravitating around the Magiantist works. Verzel's men are digging the earth, probably looking for their precious flux. It would seem that, for reasons I cannot fathom, they have roused the anger of Loch Varn's de Morven. I have done my best to calm things down, mainly by advising the people of Loch Varn not to meddle with the Magiantists. So that's one set of papers that you find.
Okay. Is there enough paper on this table that if I swiped these particular papers, it would be super obvious?
Just
Or is
take
it
them.
kind
Yes, yeah. There's plenty.
Okay, so
There's probably 100 sheets of paper here.
someone would have to search to find they're not there. That's fine. I will
Are
swipe.
you going to
them.
put all of those sheets of paper on the screen so we can determine which ones are important?
Every single one. Every one I demanded.
And because you rolled so well, you can also have this. A register of the temple from year 857, so 4 years after the previous one. This year we have welcomed 28 newborns. Unfortunately, I could bless none of them, and half of them have not made it through winter. The Demorthen is still opposing any funeral ceremony that could yet allow the departed souls to join the eternal kingdom of the Creator. 2 other faithful have joined our church. Unfortunately, their conversion was done secretly. The war opposing my country to Reich may spread to Towel Care, which makes my task more complicated as the Demorthen do not hide their hatred against the temple now. The population used to treat me with politeness and sometimes with respect, but it seems this time is over indeed. And then as an addendum to that is another section of notes. Unfortunately, the dangers of a war with Gwydra are putting me in a tricky situation. Many are those who fear an invasion of the temple, and my task gets harder every day. There is worse, though. The Magiantists have been slaughtered and their installations ransacked. Loch Varn's Demorthen is not personally levelling accusations at me, but he has clearly been telling behind my back that my supposed allies hidden in the mountains are responsible for such a crime. I think that the culprits are actually this man and his henchmen. It may well be that I am not safe here anymore, and that I have to depart, which would leave this region in ignorance and darkness.
The allies hidden in the mountain thing is particularly interesting. I wonder if that's just absolutely unfounded or if there's something we don't know. Okay, I swiped them all. Maybe if they were on top, give the papers a little ruffle around so, no one would notice. Is that all that's here? Is it just this room and the table? Are there other exits to the room?
No, it's just this. A little secret hidey space.
For a moment, I think I'll be like, I guess given it probably didn't take me very long to find those things. I'm not saying I'm going to find anything, Jonny, but I think Fionn probably finds it a little odd that underneath a flagstone there is some papers which don't really say very much. Interesting. I mean, I guess this is kind of interesting niche stuff to us, but it's not like it's incriminating of anything. So it seems a little odd that it's hidden under a flagstone. So I guess for a moment I'll just look around I feel like there should be something more specifically to hide here, if you see what I mean, even if I'm not going to find
what you wouldn't be sure of is you don't know necessarily whether Joan would even be aware that this were here. This could be from times long past, potentially. There isn't anything recent in the papers.
I see.
So
Okay,
roughly how long ago were the papers dated?
60 years. 50 years, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, if that thought occurs to me, then does it look like it's been disturbed recently, this area? Is the dust settle on the ground, or is it
give me a perception roll.
like cobwebs, I suppose. 14.
You don't think anybody's been down here for a while.
Okay. Changes my perspective on what I might do.
Yeah, the only there is some dust on the floor, and it looks to only be your footsteps that have disturbed that. Okay. And yeah, sort of spiders with hefty web networks and.
I see. Okay, assuming there's nothing else other than this table, then I will depart back up the stairs again. Then, tucking my these papers away into pocket somewhere, and then kind of stand looking at the hole for a moment, making sure no one else spotted me come out of it, and then kind of consider whether I'm going to close it or not, or just tell Joan about it and then push it closed. And then presumably.
So you've probably been down there a total of about 5 minutes, maybe a little longer.
Yeah. I will return the stone and then put the candles back and go find the rest of the group, I suppose. I just sidle in quietly behind while presumably conversation is still ongoing. Don't say anything.
I think I was gonna say, in terms of conversation, like Joan didn't really have, like, I think where we'd left off in terms of where we were starting to chat, she didn't really know much. She seemed fairly oblivious, right? You know, she didn't know much about, you know, what was in the libraries, didn't know much about the sort of history of the church. You know, she was just like, I'm new here, kind of.
She's been installed there relatively recently. So yeah, any information about sort of past goings on there or historical events, she wouldn't be up on.
Okay. I mean, Sophia has probably been trying to, you know, draw blood from that stone in any desperate kind of way, and probably getting a bit frustrated by the time Fion's sidled back in.
So, what is, like, I'm assuming it's like later in the evening now. What is, if there is just this kind of dying conversation going on? I guess I will sidle in, maybe like pull Ragnall to the side then, while Sophia's exasperatedly trying to get any more information out, and just quietly say, "Are we staying the night? What's happening? Anything from the conversation?"
Yeah, in the breaks in your conversation, you basically hear Joan sort of apologising after every one of Sophia's sentences, as she has no information to give.
How long did it take us to get over here? Because we left fairly early in the day, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a few hours. So you
Right.
arrived sort of early afternoon.
Okay.
You could, I think what I'd said was you could travel back and get back before you would be in bed, but it would be dark while you were continuing to travel.
Okay. Yeah, then I guess I'd say we haven't really found anything. Where did you go off to?
And then I think I will say, in our language, I did find something. I'm not sure Joan knows of it, though. She probably won't be able to help much.
What did you find?
Later, I'll show you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess.
I think I'll move so the rest of you presumably I'll have to do this for a while before Fulga notices, but at least Sophia will notice immediately. I'll move so that you everyone can see me, but not like I'm trying to do anything. Just like I'm trying to stand there, like make it obvious that I've come back from somewhere to you two, but not really anything else has happened.
Have you got cobwebs in your hair?
Yeah, exactly. I think I rolled good enough for my perception. I would have pulled them out. If that was a flat 1 perception, that would have been great, wouldn't it?
We need like a secret signal to indicate like we've found something. So yeah, I guess if the conversation with Joan is not going anywhere particularly, and it would it's going to take us a while to get back. I guess, do we stay the night? Is that the?
We should stay the night.
Well, look, I've got some fresh bread in that's just been delivered by somebody passing through. Let me prepare us some nice sandwiches for dinner.
Good.
Perhaps by way of an apology for my lack of knowledge.
Who was it that came through? Who's been traveling here recently? Immediately back on interrogation.
Just the usual, just the usual Varigel passes through.
Did they say where they were going? Where they come from?
To deliver more bread to people.
Did they talk about any dangers they'd encountered on the road?
No, they've come from Loch Varn, I think, and are heading back to the Vale of Melwan, which is where they'd come from, I think. Did they trading fish for baked products, and I think that's the usual route.
Varigel from Melwan. What was their name? We might know them. We came from Melwan.
I'm not sure. They just stop in, and
there was nothing strange. No news. No odd news from Loch Varn. The whole town is in a
I think I might lean over to Ragnar, maybe Fulgur too, if he can hear, and just be like, perhaps we should go after all.
Nonsense. Not if there's sandwiches.
Yeah, assuming there's no real useful information, but yeah, like Sophia would absolutely, again, trying to squeeze any information out.
I know every Varagul east of the mountains. Tell me who it was.
You're lying.
That doesn't match the description of any of the Varaguls I know.
Varaguls come from Melwan to Loch Varn. I mean, that's basically my story. What's going on here? There's all these crazy parallels.
It was Sophia did it. Sophia did it, and then there's a dream, and this is all a dream. And
suddenly you notice
in the future, Sophia's taking up a bread delivery service.
Suddenly you notice bread products just in your cloak.
Exactly, and then I remember I got a long lost sister or something that I forgot about, and yeah. Oh no, we lost Jonny.
No, I think he's here, just camera.
No.
Or maybe
not, Jonny.
I am here.
Yeah.
Your camera's frozen.
Why did that go so far away?
Frozen on the screen.
We can hear you, John. We can hear you.
I think we're fine. This is all fine.
Yeah, it's all fine. We just can't see you properly. It's okay.
Just add it to the collection of weird things that have happened. Oh, there we go. Oh no, maybe.
Am I back?
Maybe.
With
One
freeze
single frame. Yeah, we had a new frame.
You don't need to see you.
Anyway, are we staying then? It sounds like the
we're staying.
Consensus is that we're staying. Okay.
We're staying.
I think I might just go. Perhaps I might retire for a moment, and then look vaguely pointedly at everyone. Presumably, like
I'm gonna have to look very pointed at Fulgur if you're trying to get any message across to him.
We had somewhere to stay when we were here last, or somewhere at least I know I could go. That's like, I'm just going to retire for a moment, polite, without having to ask. So I will go to that place. And yeah,
I guess we'll follow.
Fulgur might just not notice we've all left.
Fulgur doesn't notice anything.
Amazing. So suddenly 3 of us have disappeared. You're on your own.
No. Cool. Okay. Well, if have you actually stayed put, Fulgur, and not come with us?
If you pull on Fulgur's
no, I'm not doing that. Okay, so maybe
no, Fulgur doesn't notice anything.
Okay, well, I've got Sophia and Ragnar. I will, once I'm sure that Joan hasn't followed us, I will pull out the papers that I found and be like, I did find something.
I mean, as you're doing that, like Sophia would be like, there's no secrets in Joan. I don't know about secrets in this chapel, but there's no. And then she'll spot your papers and be like, where'd you find this? There was nothing in the library.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Sophia. I found it under a flagstone, under the. What room was it, Jonny? Doesn't really matter, I suppose.
It was just a sort of a room that doesn't look like. Yeah, it's potentially just used for people to, another room that people might sleep in if they're staying here, kind of thing. Cool. Yeah,
just a side room I found. I was wandering around, but the flagstone looked like it didn't fit properly, and I lifted it, and below was nothing really unusual, just a table with some papers, lots of papers on it. These were among them. I thought these were of interest, certainly, and presumably, you can scan them now and have a look and see what's on them. I'll also say, it didn't look like it had been disturbed for some time. I would say years. I suspect Joan hasn't been down. Well, I'm not certain. We could tell her, I suppose, if we wanted.
This seems like is this the timing? This must be about the time that De Morgan was talking about in terms of the trouble with the Magiantists.
I think so. He said he was of that age. I could remember it. Or the only that would match up, and the timing would match the Magiantist, and when they were here, signing those ruins.
This is quite unusual, though. Who are these people in the mountains?
Well, it reads here as a suggestion of. To me, it sounds almost like a frivolous suggestion, like just a mad accusation of me based in nothing. Given that this is the priest writing, perhaps that's true, or perhaps it's an account they wanted others to read and they wanted to lie.
Do you think the De Morgan attacked the Magiantists and tried to blame the church?
Given what I've seen of Magiantis so far, I could believe that Demorthen would choose to do it. Blaming the church for it seems odd, though, to me.
It seems quite antagonistic there as well.
Yes.
These secretive conversions, there's definitely some bad blood. But then why did that Demorthen man point us? It was his voice pointing us back to the chapel, saying there were secrets here. He must have known about this, or will have known. I was in the dream, and the dream hasn't happened yet.
Well, I'm not sure how the dream associates with him, really. Certainly it was his voice, but perhaps that was in our minds in some way rather than actually him and what he is thinking and doing. I don't know.
But you knew the voice before. I didn't hear that. I don't have any memory of that until after I'd met him. But you knew it before we went back to the village.
I did, and I confronted him, and he seemed to be telling the truth when he said he'd never met me before and didn't know me. He could be lying, of course.
Well, if he's behind all the awful attacks and things, maybe he's far more manipulative and masterminded than we might otherwise have thought.
Jonny,
Yes.
if he was a Demorthen, we know he's a Demorthen now. He obviously wouldn't have been a Demorthen 50 years ago. Presumably Demorthen. Well, I guess I'm a Demorthen though, so it could be that he was if he's proper old. But if he was, there might have been other Demorthen in the village who would have been more senior than him, who would have been the kind of leader. Or do you think he could feasibly have been the leader for that long?
He either is an option. So he could have been, because often there is only one Demorthen in a village, so he could have been the only Demorthen there. You think you're not exactly sure of his age, but you could imagine him being into his 70s and thus potentially having been the Demorthen there at that point. But it is possible that he either wasn't there or that there was somebody senior to him there at the time also.
Well, given what he said, then I think I will say to Sophia, it seems very possible that he was the one who instigated it, yes. But we don't know.
I'm not sure what to make of this business about what the Magiantists were doing. It's a little worrying that they were looking for flux again.
I agree. Nothing good comes from that Nimhal.
Well, they obviously think something good can come of it. Or at least something useful, perhaps better, more than good.
Either way, where does this really get us? It seems to suggest that someone attacked the Magiantists about 50 years ago. Perhaps the village, perhaps others. There was certainly bad blood between them. Perhaps the church too. But perhaps how could that have caused all this? Was it some sort of vengeance, or is it all coincidence? What are we supposed to take away from this? I don't really know.
I don't know. I mean, we were pointed towards secrets at the chapel. I suppose nothing ever said they were going to be useful secrets. But there's something. Jonny, sorry, remind me, was there anything to imply it from those papers that would imply that or at least that it's possible that the Demorthen or someone else from Loch Varn would have been at the ruins? Like, if there's some kind of, or you know, whoever attacked the Magiantists, is it likely that was, or yeah, maybe that there isn't anything, but.
Well, in the notes at the bottom of the second page, the writer says that he believes the culprits of destroying the Magiantists' installation and killing the Magiantists is this man, which you could presume means the Demorthen. This man and his henchmen.
And their installation presumably and presumably that's in the ruins, or what we now know would refer to as the ruins.
You could quite easily make that assumption, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if this is something to do with, sorry, I can't remember the name. Was it Dion? Dion, the Northern man. Did we get his name? Or am I
Yes.
making that up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this is him, then he may have been there before, and why would he need us to guide him there? That's what he wanted. He wanted us to go back and guide him. This feels like a lure.
Yeah. Why would he want to go back there at all? The Magiantists aren't there.
But
Even he
something
said
is,
there were no reports that they've been back.
I don't doubt that whatever is here is coming in some way from that ruin or from some power from that ruin. But who's using it? And I agree, it seems quite likely that he's probably been before and isn't telling us, which is very worrying. Makes it seem more like a trap, doesn't it?
It does. That whole village makes me feel uncomfortable now.
But we don't know. It might be that he never went. We don't have evidence of it.
What we do have evidence of, though, Fulgur, his dream, that note that got stolen from you, Ragnall, and left with Fulgur. Someone in the village did that. This is calculated.
But why? To get us to come here to reveal what happened to the Magiantists?
I'm not sure that if they... I don't understand why we got that message about secrets in the chapel, but they were trying to get us back to the ruins. They didn't really want us to come here. They wanted us back at the ruins. Fionn, is there a dark side to more than mysteries and some? I mean, that awful occult business that they wanted to sacrifice you. Is there any kind of dark side to more than study that?
There is nothing innately dark about it, but anything could be manipulated or used. I would always be more inclined to trust the Demorthan too, but people are people.
I'm sorry to say I don't trust the Demorthan down in Loch Varn at all.
Neither do I completely. However, we can't go in there and accuse him of anything yet. We have evidence that the village was involved, and we have evidence that someone here knew about it and perhaps was involved too, but no people. We could question him about this if we wanted. We might get more answers, but we reveal our hand, and he could still say he knows nothing about it.
Yeah.
We should, well, given that this note, the note that Fulgur now has, points to the island, we should try to get to the island, I think, and see whether we can find any more clues there. If somehow some Magiantist is trying to point us at the truth.
I definitely don't feel like I want to go to the ruins just yet anyway.
No.
We need more information before we go, and there's clearly something else going on.
Agreed. And it's dangerous. Lots of people have died already. There are these attacks. We can't really let it lie.
Should we go get Fulgur?
Where is he?
Theon maybe just noticed.
Smash cuts
Just
to
come back and
table
Joan is just
laden with sandwiches.
caving
Yeah,
in Fulgur's
it's
head with
it's
the
Fulgur
candlestick
just
at the table.
eating all of the sandwiches. No one else wanted the sandwiches, so I guess I'll have everyone's sandwiches.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you know. Fulgur is probably, if not eating, then praying, because, again, Fulgur has just received some real divine inspiration, and you got to pray on that kind of thing.
He's ready for some more.
If Fulgur is clearly distant and alone, like as in no one else is there, I will probably like wait patiently for a moment, then realize Fulgur will never notice me while praying, like he'll never notice me at any other point, and then just cough loudly.
Sure. Well, Theon, you're breathing so loud, it's very difficult to concentrate on praying. What do you want?
I took those papers with me, and given that I'm like, there's no one else in here at the moment, I'll just show them to you and say,
Oh,
I found
fantastic! These
I
are
found this.
fascinating.
looks like, well, gives us clues about what happened to that ruin. But I don't think Joan knows
Yes.
about it.
I suppose so. Though the more important thing is the clear persecution the temple has been facing these last few years. Goodness me. What a find.
But it doesn't really tell us what to do now. I suppose we're staying the night here either way.
Yes. Wait for more divine inspiration. I think that's the most important thing to do. So I'd encourage you to pray, and or whatever it is that you do to commune with things, and kind of, I'm sure it will reveal itself in time. After this, I think we head back to town and see that lake. That island, that lake seemed like an interesting thing to do. We're on the right path.
I am not at all reassured by Fulga's certainty. In fact, I think it's slightly less reassuring. I'll head off and see if there's any sandwiches left, I suppose.
There are still sandwiches left. If anything, Joan has overcompensated with the amount of sandwiches that she's made. I think she's probably going to be without bread for a few days, potentially. After,
Oh, no.
But it's nice, fresh bread.
Sophia will be very vocally appreciative through Joan, feeling slightly guilty.
Can't think of anything
Yeah,
else.
I mean, you said it's early afternoon still. How I mean, in terms of there's no point really trying to get back out to the lake tonight either. Like, it would just as well to kind of bed in for the night and go back during the day.
Yeah, so it's early afternoon, but also you're on kind of winter timings, so it's sort of 4 or 5 p.m. darkness.
Okay.
And it was a good few hours to get here. So you would be, you probably don't want to be heading out onto the lake in the dark for safety reasons.
Yeah. I guess we've got quite a lot of time to kill then. I think Sophia will kind of keep wandering around and just, reading whatever dull documents, if there's any other kind of similar record keeping that she can find, or, just suspiciously kicking every flagstone just in case. I mean, we've got nothing else to do for several hours. Yeah. Sure as hell doesn't really want to be going to sleep anytime soon, so she's kind of trying to while away some hours, I suppose.
You flick through a number of books and kick a number of flagstones, but don't turn up anything of immediate interest.
I might take a wander around the immediate sort of vicinity and just check for, like large centipede mounds, just in case.
I'll be out with you two just for a walk around.
Having a walk,
sunsets, yeah.
Have a chat with Morag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I brought out
quite
a sandwich for her.
It's quite a nice, crisp winter's day. There is a small covering of snow on the ground, so you get a nice crunch on the areas that you step through that aren't on the path. If you're kind of going around the back and outskirts of the chapel. You do come across a couple of small sort of dirt mounds that you would presume would be moles rather than centipedes.
Moles are
they're certainly, not giant moles either. Normal sized mole hills. Yeah.
I've just had an idea. I'll tell you what I would like to do. I'd like to go and look at if there's a graveyard here and look around and a bit after those dates that I saw in those documents, see if there's any conspicuous graves. For example, if there's a name that maybe looked like it might be a Magiantist. I'm trying to pick it up from looking like an out-of-town name, I suppose, but it's probably a long shot, but that's an idea.
That's an idea.
There is not a graveyard here.
At all?
No.
No. And we didn't find any corpses in the corpse chute.
You must have a separate one.
That typical burial method of your church, corpse shoots. Okay, I'm disappointed.
No nonsense.
I thought that was a really clever idea, Johnny, and now I'm disappointed that there's just no graveyard.
It was a clever idea, but
too clever by half for this story. Take Fulger's attitudes if we're solving problems.
Pray, it'll all be fine.
Let it all happen.
Yeah, just encounter it.
That's the question of who gets a weird dream tonight. That's the.
Well, Fulger's been praying really hard for once. So.
Yeah, I suppose nothing else really doing with the evening.
Well, it's nice not to be attacked.
Incense. trying to get that religious inspiration. Anyway.
Okay, cool.
To bed.
You can, you get a pretty good night's sleep. It's not, you're a little cold, but there is a fire lit. But it's a large stone building, so the amount of good that it does in winter conditions is not optimal. But you're not uncomfortable. If you probably wake up a couple of times during the night and kind of pull your blankets a little closer. But apart from that, it's quite a nice night's sleep. And you presumably, I would imagine, wake up with the sun. I'd guess that's probably what you're used to, unless anybody thinks they would wake up particularly early.
No.
And you hear the sound of birds outside, and you presume it's another fresh, bright day out there.
Do you have to say presume, like setting up some sort of?
It's
not though.
You haven't seen. I never like to say that something is definite because I don't know why. Unless you've seen it.
I'm going to gather
Jonny.
my things and head out. Rouse the troops. Get ready to get going. It's been a good day. Ready to get out on the lake and or go march to the.
In that case, Fulger knows it is a fresh, bright day.
There we go. Get up,
Everyone
everyone!
else
It's a
still
fresh,
only
bright day.
presumed.
I know you guys don't know it yet, but trust me, it's a good one.
It must be an awful
Out
day
of bed.
Yeah, Fionn just pulls blanket overhead. Yeah, cool. I will thank Joan for her hospitality before we go. I think as well. Yeah, head off. There's nothing else she gets.
It's literally her
I
job.
think maybe like just as we leave, just leave the building and head outside, kind of out of earshot. I might say, should we tell Joan about the records under the floors?
I
Would it be
would like.
important for her?
I was
Best
thinking
not to scare
I'd
her.
like to.
Could scare her.
The one reason I don't want to is because it makes it obvious I was snooping around in her chapel.
You know, if she finds out, she'll only be uncomfortable that maybe she's not welcome. You know, she needs to do a good fresh start with this.
But don't you think she could potentially be in danger? Doesn't she deserve to know? Isn't it important for the sake of the church that they have the records that her predecessor had? Or one of her predecessors?
Fulger's caught between a rock and a hard place here.
I suppose I could.
Logical arguments versus blind opinion.
I suppose I could.
You're not normally stuck with that.
Yeah.
I suppose I could leave the stone very slightly off center, so she'd notice it at some point in future, but might not know it was us.
Maybe it's
Trip
slipped
over
in that position.
Yeah, she trips over it and just injures herself.
Here's a question. So is the notes that Fionn found, do they relate to the same church that's there now in terms of?
I think yes, right?
The
religion?
temple, as in the religion. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has stayed around. It's like 50 years later, and it's still
Presumably the same building too. I think it's quite an old building. I got the impression.
Yeah, so the Magiantis place has been wrecked, now ruins, but this place still stands. This is now the same.
and it's the same religion. So it's not like it was drummed out of
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
I guess that conversation happens a bit, and I go, well, I suppose evidence suggests she's safe. Maybe Fulger's right. She doesn't.
We
need
can
to know
always
when
return
her
the documents when we're leaving, as we're going.
Jonny, did we know what happened to her predecessor? Because these notes are not from her most recent predecessor, are they? There's
It's
been other
50
people
years,
since
yeah.
then, because that's 50 years ago. I can't remember whether she didn't know, did she? That she was just assigned.
Yeah, she wasn't aware.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose we could always
Sent there.
ask her what her opinion of these notes are.
If
Maybe
the
she'll have
person-
interesting knowledge or to bear on the notes. Who knows?
If the
Not me.
person had taken over imminently after that person, it's possible that they died of old age.
Yeah.
And that, you know, if
Yeah.
they were sent and they were sort of 30, 40 and sent here,
Yeah.
then it's quite possible that that's the case.
Yeah.
And they've just passed and she's their replacement.
Well, we could ask her what her opinion is of the notes. We don't need to. You know, we can say whatever you want to say about how you found them, but you know, maybe she'll know something about something.
If we wish to ask, I would suggest you found them, Fulga.
Well, yes, they appeared to me in a similar fashion to the way that previous documents have made their way into my
What, they were
hands.
left on your bedside table with blood on them.
Mhm. She'll go for that. Well, if not, then you know, Fulga just grabs the notes from Fionn, and yes, I'm going to go talk to Joan about this before we leave.
I guess if you grab them from me, then I'll just say, make sure we keep them if possible.
Sophia will stay behind, but just start jotting down on some of her scraps of paper the things the key details she can remember, given that we've been prone to forgetting things.
Fulga basically relates to Joan how divine inspiration struck in the middle of the night, and he stumbled across this strange room.
Well, when you after you've had your conversation and you
Yeah.
decide to go have this discussion with Joan, you go back into the room that she mostly mills around in and find a note that says, to any potential arrivals, walking in the woods, back soon.
Great. No, that's fine. It's fine. Well, we tried. She's currently out. I think we should just go.
Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll swing by on the way back, assuming we make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm sure by that point we'll have solved the whole thing.
She's never going to come back again after that question like last night.
Cool. Let's go.
Back to Loch Varn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you planning on heading out on a boat when you get there? Is that your...
Yeah, if the
Imminent
villagers
plan?
aren't so angry at us that they're going to put us to the stake for
Yeah.
detouring so much. Like we promised we'll lead the expedition tomorrow.
I don't believe we promised. I think we very carefully avoided promising.
I believe you said you would give them an answer today. I think that was the...
But we could go to
Not
the
promised.
island and back today. So
I think
we can
our
still give the answer today.
is, once we've done this, as long as nothing else pops up,
Sure.
we will almost certainly lead you on the expedition.
We'll give it our highest priority once. ...
Yeah, we're putting a red star on this priority, which means for us that's like nearly the highest priority we can give something.
Okay. Are you...
Can any of us row boats?
I'm pretty sure you could row on a gentle
Yeah,
rock. It wouldn't be
it
that
can't be that
hard.
difficult, can it?
Yeah.
They all drown.
I don't really want to lead any of you, but are any of you planning on looking over the puzzle anymore?
I mean,
On your...
Are we allowed to?
Presuming I'm not rowing, which I probably am not. I think I'd.
Oh
have a
no!
bit of
On your way back to
Yeah.
the village, because you've got a few hours.
my interpretation of it is that this T, that's either like maybe a
Here we go.
one of these symbols has to be a tree. Putting it out there, either the first one or the second one. No?
Did we get anything at all from the top? Didn't we get something?
Maybe
We tried.
No.
curve could be a moon.
I think we
Yeah.
thought it was just Magenta stuff, maybe some kind of like a formula or something.
Yeah, but we didn't. We
Didn't get more than a formula. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
One of
if we're allowed to
these
roll
symbols
again
is
for
a
it,
tree.
then
You are
yeah.
allowed to roll again for it if you're continuing to peruse. So
That's-
you can make either a Magiance roll
Yeah,
or a science roll.
cool.
And I will inform you that the science roll is a harder one than the Magiance roll. So even if you might have lower Magiance, but you may still end up better off.
I rolled a 1 for a total of 3.
Nice.
I got
So-
a 13 on Magiants.
Okay.
I got an 11 because I rolled a 9. I have 2 Magians points.
Okay.
Nice. That's good.
Plus reason?
Yeah, the reason is 2. Yes, so 2
Sam?
reason, and I rolled a 9.
I was going to say, I didn't think you'd have Magiants there. Fion's suddenly looking suspiciously at Ragnall.
Fulgur is so confident he knows what this is. It's a tree.
Sam, did you
An 8
roll?
on both
Okay.
because I have neither.
So Ragnall and Sophia suddenly discussing together, I will say, the two of you come to a conclusion that it is the formula for a chemical which is known to react with particular minerals and can reveal the presence of certain substances.
Cool. That could be anything.
This is their flux finder.
The flux
It's got to
finder.
be.
Do we know what substance is, or just it's like an indicator? All we know is that.
Yes, you are not. You just know that it's used to find certain things. You don't know what those certain things are.
And it must be derived from some
However,
kind of tree.
all of the things that are required, if you share this information, Fion would be pretty sure that he would be able to gather these. He already has some of them, and would be able to gather some of them either on the road or at Loch Varn from somebody who has herbs.
Okay.
Are they suggesting that we need to use this indicator on an island? Are we supposed to be finding something?
I mean, it seems that the second part is a clue to an island. There's one island that stands out here, so I guess that's a reasonable suggestion. And then I see over your shoulder one of the plants that's on the thing, go, oh, and then dash off to go and pick it up.
Yeah, I mean,
Presumably.
you can describe any of the plants. We'll keep an eye out as we travel.
Yeah.
To be fair, Ragnall's got a natural environment like higher than me, so Ragnall might actually find them as well.
Yeah, I would certainly do some foraging on the way if I could.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still amused as to like how we actually got this bit of paper, and
That's because you're not a very devout man, Ragnall.
Well, you got this originally from the ruins, but they weren't ruined. No, from the ruins. That's right.
yeah.
And then
How-
they came to you, Fulgur.
Mm-hmm.
How old does this paper look again? Does this look like 50-year-old paper? Is it or is it more recent?
Difficult to say because it's quite damaged.
Yeah.
So, but you don't think it's been put in the ruins after they were ruined? You think it was probably there at the point that it was,
Right.
Essentially probably burnt down?
It seems possible that this was written by our Magiantist, the one who was talked about in those notes.
But if it was written so long ago, why are we suddenly? Why did Fulgur find it. Why? I don't understand why it's so important to us.
Someone
What do
in
we
that-
have to do?
Someone in that village wants us to do something with. I don't know what their purpose is, but the reason it's coming to us now is because someone in that village is making this stuff happen to us. I'm not entirely. I mean, it may be that they were the ones who got us to go to the ruins in the first place. When your memory, Ragnall, which am I still right, Jonny? Like none of the rest of us remember that. Still, it's still only Ragnall who remembers that first trip. I think.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else remembers that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's possible that someone else sent us there originally to find this, to find some. Maybe they're looking for whatever this formula is meant to reveal. I don't know, but it feels like we're being used for something. We're being pointed in a direction by someone in the village.
Is there a Magiantist hiding in the village? Could
The
that
thought
be?
had occurred to me that perhaps this is all some plot to get vengeance on the people who wronged them long ago. Perhaps someone's come back.
Or maybe they're trying to finish the job. The villagers are trying to. They think they haven't stamped out everyone, and they're using us to do that somehow. That dream, we were there, and we had to defend our lives. They saw us as attackers. Maybe we'd done something to be attacked, but then it was the people in the village who were attacking us. And you thought it was your cousin. It doesn't make sense. It seemed like it was the people in the village who were in the ruins.
I still take it as the dream is. I don't know.
Well, if the people in the village are a threat, at least to the Magiantists, and they don't want the truth to get out, I could see why. If we know the truth, then we might be in danger.
Given what we've seen in the dreams, I think we certainly are in danger.
Still, it doesn't really tell us anything else, does it?
And it won't
Suppose
stop it.
hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully finding this, whatever this indicator does, finding something with it will help, I suppose.
And do you think you can? You think you can create this substance, Fionn?
I have an amusing image of right now just Fionn pulling out like a mortar and pestle from a pocket and starting to grind and just being like, I'll have a go. Should I make a roll for trying to make it, Jonny? Or
I think you're pretty confident. I don't think you need a roll. It's kind of
Cool.
in your wheelhouse to.
It's good.
Yeah, we don't want to find out what happens if you fail that roll. It could derail the entire story.
You don't find out anything if he doesn't make that down.
Oh dear. Well, so we're making that, we're heading back, and then we're getting on a boat, potentially after we find out what this weird formula thing does. Maybe it gives us a compelling reason not to go on the boat. That's the plan, right?
Yep. Are you happy to tell the village that we have another plan immediately, Fulgur?
Yeah, we're being detained, but we promise post haste that we'll get right on it. They are definitely the highest caller in this queue. You know, they are.
Your quest is important.
Yeah, it is. We just have a few other. We'll be right back onto it. That's my.
That sounds good. You've got.
That's my line. And if you need a relation roll to back that up, I got a 17. So you know, that's
Okay.
that's,
So
yeah.
you return to the village, and you are, as you arrive, the villagers all kind of spot you, and you figure that they're all aware now that essentially this trip is kind of waiting on you. Word has got around, so there are kind of hushed but excited sort of conversations that go on as you enter the village. And it's actually Dion the Demorthan that kind of beckons you into the village council leader's home as you head into the village.
Fulgur's happy to head on in, whether anyone else wants to join me, as whatever.
Yeah, I'll follow you.
Good afternoon. Have you completed the task that you wanted to complete before heading to the ruins?
Yes, but it did only raise more questions, I'm afraid. We think the plan is that we will be heading to the ruins imminently. But before we go, we've been making some progress on something to do with the ruins, something to do with our dreams, and we feel that having an answer to that could be something that saves many, many lives if we are able to finish that before we go. But we don't anticipate it taking more than the rest of today. Is that, like, looking at Fionn, is that right? And then we will head to the ruins.
I see. Is this activity in the village?
We are going to finish preparing a concoction that our herbmaster, has been working on. That will be in the village. And then
You see him kind of look over at Dion for a second as you say that with a raised eyebrow, and then he turns his attention back to you.
We will be taking a trip out onto the lake.
Very well. In this case, I shall ensure that a boat is at your disposal.
Thank you.
Is there any reaction from anybody in the room, like sort of sudden shocked?
There are only those two. There's only Dion and the village council leader, and they both look composed.
Okay,
good.
Aside from the raised eyebrow that he gave when you mentioned creating a concoction for some reason that is unclear to him.
Yeah, I think Ragnar would probably have looked more sort of shocked at Fulga being incredibly truthful.
Fionn's just there like...
Well, I mean, Fulga couldn't tell him what the concoction was for if he asked. So this is
right.
It's perfectly safe.
Fulga didn't notice either.
Fulga could say 100% of what he knows for a fact to be going on, and literally know about everything, and the room would be none the wiser about anything.
That's your true power.
If Fulga marshalled all of the facts that he has available to him, they can be enunciated in a very short space of time.
So I think I will also ask, kind of to both of them, I guess. No one else has arrived from the original groups that left to the ruins, correct? While we were away.
Unfortunately, no.
Surprised, to be honest. Hopefully, we'll have our answers soon.
Yes, please keep us updated on your progress.
I think I'm also, while I'm doing this, trying not to, but looking quite closely at Dion to try and see if he actually looks like he's old enough to match the timings that we now have for this. Does he look like he could be in his 70s, I presume, at least?
Make me a perception roll.
I'm just trying to gauge how much I think he's involved. That's not very good. It's only a 9.
Okay. You would say that he could definitely be old enough.
Okay.
He may be younger and look old, but you also know from being Demorthen that it tends to be relatively clean living, and Demorthen people do often look younger for longer. So yeah, you think he looks potentially 70, so he may be older than that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Fionn looks ancient and wrecked. He always looks sick. He's only 28 and he looks like 45.
Have we had much chance to talk about the temple with the townspeople yet? I can't remember if it's been a topic of big conversation. Then I'll ask, having just visited the chapel, is there anyone in town who still regularly follows the teachings of the temple, or is that not?
No, most here are under the care of Dion. people visit here who follow the teachings of the temple, and we bear them no ill will. It is just not our way. We are a traditional people, as you will see. We are tucked away from many of the modern influences of the world, and we're quite comfortable in that.
Can make like a roll of some description to see how much would buy that. I don't know. Like, does
Sure,
he,
yeah. Perception roll.
seem
Make
believable?
I rolled a 7 for perception, which is pretty good for Fulga.
13.
8 for me, not very good.
Are you rolling, Sam?
Just taking him at his
You
word.
don't have to.
Hadn't noticed there was a dice roll going.
I think I will take him at his word. Although originally I hadn't noticed, so you are being. I'm going to use it as a moment of Fionn is distracted and takes him at his word.
You think he's being legitimate. You know, you've seen the village. That it's all very. They are kind of at the back end of this vale, which you're not sure if there's really much out the other way without literally scaling mountains. And you know, they make their trade from fishing, and you kind of picked up from Joan that potentially they may not even use coins here. You've been allowed to stay somewhere, and given you've not seen any coins trading hands, and you've heard that they basically the Varigals come here with bread and leave with fish. It's possible that they're still running on a barter system even. So you don't really have any reason to think that he's not telling the truth and being completely sincere about the fact that they're just a traditional village that just sits here and carries on as it always has. Kind of thing.
I less not so much trusting that they weren't a traditional village, more about like, are they actually like pretty laissez-faire about people being, will live and let live about the church and stuff. But yeah.
What I would say in terms of they've been quite clear about their distaste for Magiantists. So you don't have any reason to think that they wouldn't be the same about people from the temple.
But we haven't seen any weird obelisks or squat hideous statues or.
We haven't been out to the Devil's Reef yet. I'm in the island. Speaking of which,
true.
I think it's about time that we headed on.
I will, just before we leave, like as that was going on, I'll have been looking around the room just to see whether there were any like obvious stashes of records or paperwork that like historical records that might be of interest should we happen to have a moment later on.
No, this room that you enter into, there may be. There are other rooms off. You figure probably the actual living quarters, and this is sort of a communal area that the village comes to. It's quite a big room. It's the room that you came to when they had the meeting. So this is the room that you come into when you enter the building.
Okay.
So anybody seeking an audience could come inside and not be entering the living quarters.
Yeah.
So if you explored further, if you were given the chance, there may be other stuff, but certainly not in this public room.
Okay. Well, let's go to the lake then, and
be fine.
Get our boat.
I would just like to point out that me not paying attention then was entirely me role-playing Fionn, because I literally did think Fion's not interested in the church bit when Fulga brought it up, and then proceeded to do something else, apparently, just like Fionn was doing as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And reasonable. So, have we managed to get this concoction built?
Yeah, it seems like
devised,
yes, because Jonny didn't want to do
developed?
a roll, right?
Fion's pretty certain that he's put together what is described on this from this formula.
Is it
I'll just give you a
doing
nod
anything?
then. I guess it's just a fluid that doesn't really do anything until like
it isn't doing anything yet. It's like a litmus paper sort of thing, so it reacts when presented with the
put it near
appropriate.
certain individuals or something.
I'll
You're clearly evil.
I'll
Right.
share that with Fulgur, and Fulgur will probably say that back.
It's like that's almost exactly that response. Fulgur's thing, like, magic. Like, you know.
But you
To
asked
Fulgur.
Fulgur.
Probably drink it. Keep it out of his hands.
Cool. What is the boat like?
It's okay. It doesn't have holes in it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a squeeze to fit you all in, but they do just have, you can see other boats out on the lake, and they do look to all be basically exactly the same. They're typically 2-person, maybe 3-person fishing boats, with room for whatever they pull out. So you can fit in, but it's cozy. Who's gonna row?
Fulgur, obviously. Is it a travel roll or a feats roll?
Let's do a feats roll, I think.
Is it a 1 or a
Fulgur,
2-person
obviously.
boat? Because it might be 1 on each side. If it could be.
Fulgur
Two can
will
row if you want.
nonetheless. I got this. Ah!
Is he
Anyway,
still in his full armor setup going out onto the water?
We could lose him permanently.
but
Don't
you
sound
also
so
lose
positive
it
about that.
What is Fulgur's feats score? Just out of interest.
I've got 3 in feats and 3 in combativeness, so I get +6.
Okay.
And I rolled a 5 to make 11. So,
Okay. Anyone who may be a little queasy is probably quite uncomfortable on this journey.
100%.
However, at no point do any of you feel unsafe, is the plus side of that. Fulgur is doing a pretty good job, if a very sort of sway job of getting you across the lake and this island. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done this.
Theon's sitting right in the middle of the boat, looking paler than normal. Kind of like
possible.
Gripping slightly to like one of the like beams of the boat.
And you make it across to the island. So the sun isn't quite setting, but it's certainly sort of get almost at the mountaintops surrounding the Vale. It's casting quite a long light, a long shadow. You get to the island, and as you're approaching, in fact, you see that there is basically a tree in the center of this island.
How big is the island? Is it like, the size of
It's
a roof,
small. I would say it's more an islet. You could probably fit 40 people standing on it before they start getting their feet wet. So it's not big.
Why don't you guys search the island? I will make sure the boat doesn't drift off anywhere.
Theon is immediately off the boat the second he gets the chance.
Sail away!
Yeah, get off and start having a look around.
Yep, indeed. I think
Yeah.
we'll look at the tree first. Does it
Yeah.
make
Is
sense?
there anything
here? Is it interesting?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it just kind of the tree? Like, presumably there are no buildings or anything on here. It's kind of just a natural island, so it's more.
There are
nature.
no buildings. There are no other. There's sort of grass which is slightly covered by snow on just sort of surrounding the tree, not quite out to the shoreline, I suppose. But when you get round the opposite side of the tree to where you've come from, there is a stone slab, which is kind of into the ground and kind of pointing slightly upwards towards the tree. Rectangular. Blank and flat.
Definitely like it being put there by someone, though.
Yes.
Same
Lift that slab.
not well, it's not at all like a gravestone, bigger, less regular shaped.
Not the shape that you would expect for a gravestone. Size-wise, what's that? 3 foot by 2 foot up rectangle, something like that.
Does it look like it's been here a long time? It's not like disturbed earth around.
Yeah, the edges
Stuff
are sort
growing
of
on it.
weather worn. You imagine that this was sort of a perfectly cut rectangle originally, and the edges are sort of worn and smoothed now.
Okay, well, it matches, so I think Theon is going to get some of the indicator out and just kind of smear it on the surface of the stone at different points to see if anything shows up.
Okay. It does. There is an inscription that appears, which is are the three of you there all at the same time? Yeah.
Yes, Fulgur is, I guess, still tending the boat.
I've moored the boat and I've wandered over.
Oh,
See
okay,
what this
right.
land's all about. Like,
Took all
Okay.
of like 5 seconds of you just waiting in the boat.
I thought you were the mooring point for the boat.
I hope you have actually tied the boat up properly, because otherwise we're going to get stuck there.
Make a check.
yeah,
for
I tied
memory.
that properly. I rolled like a 13.
The inscription that appears, it's a set of numbers.
Do they mean
I'm gonna ask Sophia probably to roll on this first. Can you make a travel roll?
As a travel roll, would it be? I've got discipline in signs. Would I get extra point for that at all, or not?
Let's say yeah.
9, 15.
It's a set of cartographic coordinates.
Would I have much of a sense of where that might point us, or where it might be in relation to where we are, or do I just recognize that it is this?
You certainly could if you took a map out. You'd be able to plot it relatively quickly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you'd know off the top of your head without using a map where these numbers would be pointing to. That would be quite.
Yeah, I mean,
I
even
can't-
maybe
I
like
can't
a rough
imagine.
region, like it would be like, whoa, this is like definitely way far away, or yeah, assuming I don't know how cartography works in this world. Maybe everything's very different. Who knows? Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'll relay it to the rest of the group and ask if anyone's got a map for sure.
Yeah, you don't think that it's sort of the other side of the world. It doesn't seem like that.
Yeah. And I'll scribble them down as well myself, so that if no one has a map now, we can always.
Probably the ages of the children that are buried underneath this stone. And the family that's buried here.
Actually, Fulgur, I think this might point to a location, hopefully not of buried dead children.
Location.
So, does anyone have a map we can read this from? I
don't think Sophia operates with maps. Perhaps they'll have something at Loch Varn.
Let's hope.
Perhaps we can catch one of the Varigals, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps they have one at the in the books in the library at the chapel.
Poor Joe.
Hey, we're back again.
She was really hoping one of those centipedes gets her one day. That's all this mess.
Leaping down one of the wormholes as well.
Yeah, and actually, can we also check for any disturbed earth like centipede mounds on the island
lake.
as well?
It's basically completely flat on here.
Okay. Yeah.
But who
I mean,
would leave this here?
Someone who thinks only the only people who could read it would be people they'd want to be able to read it.
Makes a convenient signpost for something, doesn't it?
I suppose it would be strange to mark
So,
a gravestone with ink that no one else could read.
Well, think about it. The only person who would ever normally find this, short of, well, we've worked quite hard to get here, is a Magiantist. Leaving signposts for a Magiantist to find. That's what all these are
They
for.
would know the meaning of that code.
And
If deciphered.
Clearly
remember
that's happened.
that the note came with a mention of Savelli's passion. We were wondering whether this might be the location of that, but perhaps it's just a clue to the real location.
I reckon it's a clue to this island. You know, they rode out to the island, and then, you know, it's saying use that formula here or something.
The Magiantist come here. There's only one. Yeah,
That's what I mean. If the ultimate goal is to find Savelli's passion, the formula is a pointer to this point, to this island, to send us to the final location, or whatever that might be.
Is there a time where the rest of the group is sufficiently distracted with talking amongst themselves about the conclusion for Fulga to lift up this stone and check there's nothing underneath it?
It won't lift. It's kind of into the ground.
Well, he tries anyway.
Yeah.
We're all just having a conversation of Fulga, so they're like,
Fulga's never mind, nothing. Doesn't move.
Wait, maybe if I kicks it.
After that, Fulga's just going to be skipping stones because waiting for you guys to finish talking. There's nothing really more for him to contribute here.
I think Theon, I will also add that someone clearly had this note as well, other than us. At least one person, because someone moved it overnight between us. So it might be safe to assume that someone else already knows about this location, because they must have known the significance of it.
We should obscure the location, whatever. We shouldn't let anyone know what location we find it.
Is that indicator temporary? Does it wear off?
Presumably, if it's been here this long, we're not going to be able to remove it easily.
I would note that I wouldn't necessarily assume that the person who's given this note does really know what this is. It does know how to interpret it. It might be that they want to understand it, and the reason they're using us is because they couldn't decipher it themselves. This could be how we're being used. I don't know. Especially if we were sent by someone to the ruins originally for you to find and pick up this note, Ragnall, for it to then be passed to Fulga, maybe in a hope that he would, I don't know, maybe in the hopes that he would drive us here, seeing as we hadn't already come here. I don't know, but clearly someone wants us to have this and do something with it.
Can we make sure we wash off the rest of the chemical from the stone so that the message is hidden again?
Is that possible, Jonny?
Is that possible, Jonny?
This long, yeah.
If you pick some snow up and sort of go to clear it off, it does dim.
I was thinking about sloshing it with some water from the lake. I've got some things that you can keep water in. Does that work at all?
Yeah, you would have to go at it for a while, you think, to get rid of it completely. But each time you go to do it, it does kind of disappear. So you figure it would get rid of itself before too long, naturally.
Oh, well, that's good then.
Someone else would have to make this substance to see it again. So I suppose there's not too much chance of that happening.
Or steal it. So we should definitely make sure we secure it somewhere.
I might not use it again. I could throw it into the lake if we don't want it.
Let's get it gold. No. Keep it. We might be more messages we need to discuss. You need to decipher with it.
And I wouldn't trust our memory of this formula.
Oh, don't remind me. Let's go back then. See if we can find a map.
All aboard.
On the boat back, I think I will muse that I wouldn't be surprised if this location leads us right back to those ruins. But I suppose
I'm wondering whether it might mention a hidden location in the mountains. Wasn't there a reference in those papers?
Well, supposedly the previous chapel keeper person had allies in the mountains, but their own records disputed that. So I don't know.
If anything, it's maybe the Magiantists never died. Maybe they were disappeared. Maybe they fled, and this is the place that they fled to.
Or perhaps they hid their secrets they didn't want anyone to find there, or something like that.
Right. Well, I rolled better on the way back, so it's less shaky.
Oh,
I've
You've honed your craft.
Yeah.
Theon still looks pale, but doesn't grip quite so tightly to the beam of the boat anymore.
Do we have enough time to? Do we know? Can we ask around whenever we get back to the village? Can we ask around about a map?
Yeah. Would you head straight to the village elder, do you think, for that?
We don't really know anyone else, do we?
He says, yes, of course, and kind of disappears for a moment and then returns with quite a large cloth map, which he unfolds onto the floor for you. And Sophia, you rolled very well, so you pretty quickly plot where this is on the map, and it is to the south of the village, so further south than you have been, because the village where you are is the southernmost point. Melwan and everything is north from you, so it's slightly south of you, in the forest.
Do you have that? The map from a few weeks ago. Is that pertinent here, Jonny? The one that showed the immediate
Yes.
area.
I would also have made the point that while you're doing this, Sophia, I would make the point before you look at the map, just quietly to maybe say, perhaps don't point at the location or make it obvious. Just keep it in your head.
Leave that to Folga.
Just tell Fogger the wrong location. Problem solved.
Sophia's just pointing like, oh, over here. I love that idea.
There you go.
So we're at the village, and so you say it was
village, yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly pretty directly south, just into the woods. Not, yeah. So seemingly not the ruins.
Interesting.
You think you could probably make a pretty decent sketch map to get you to the point that you need to get to.
They're not going to be very happy when we tell them we're not going to the ruins.
If there's no one else there, and you've said that, when there's no one else there, Fulger, I'll say, well, I have an idea that might help with that.
You think you could probably get to this point in maybe just under an hour?
Let's
So
try
you could
tonight.
you could potentially be there and back tonight, depending. Well, you could be there and back tonight. You may want to go back again tomorrow, depending on what it is that it's leading you to there.
Of course. And if we survive, of course.
Yes.
Going out
And
in
if
the
we
middle of the night
remember
when the
going.
forest full of giant centipedes.
Let's go now. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
What were you going to say, Fion?
I think if we're outside, I mean, was that they were just cool to let us have the map and then we just wandered out, Jonny? There wasn't any questions or anything?
They've not asked you any questions.
Okay, cool. If we're heading out again, then I'd be tempted to say, I think it's very important if we're going to go there, either tonight or tomorrow, we make sure no one sees us go. So perhaps only one or two of us who could move out without being seen go. My idea was that tomorrow we all head to the ruins together, but a few of us make a detour on the way, and the others have a slow journey. Hopefully that detour would be not spotted. That way, anyone tailing us might not notice and think we've disappeared somewhere.
Do we want to lead anybody else there, though?
Perhaps going in the dark is the best decision for that reason, yes. Either way, we shouldn't make it obvious we're going, if we do.
Can we?
I have a feeling that we would be spotted. If someone was running around in our rooms passing notes, I feel like somebody's watching us at night as well.
Well, yes, but it must be worth a try. I don't think it's a good idea to deliberately lead someone there. If we think it's most likely that someone wanted us to find this place to lead them to it, then that's exactly what we shouldn't do.
How about this? How about I don't know. You're Fulger. What's your idea?
Well, I'm just if they don't know where this place is, it can't be a trap.
That's
I mean, it's just in the forest. Fion, you need to gather some more herbs before going out on a potentially dangerous trip to the ruins.
That was
We're
my
just
thought.
going on a short trip now during the day into the forest. It's only an hour. That we're not expecting to be long at all. No reason why anybody should need to accompany us or follow us. If they do, that's their own fault.
But someone may choose to follow us without making themselves known.
Well, I can keep an
We'll
eye
just
out
have
for
to keep
that.
an eye out for them. Either wherever we go, we'll have to go and keep an eye out for whoever's following us. That's going to be a given.
I'm not heading out by myself there in the night, suffice to say. I could do
Well,
that by
I'm-
myself tomorrow morning.
Oh,
Or we all
I'll come with you.
We'll come.
Can we
I
not
mean,
go
we
now?
could leave the village separately and meet up outside, and then go if we want to sort of, cover our trails slightly. But I think we should at least see what it is tonight if we can.
Okay.
Fulgur is at least reasonably sneaky.
Are you?
Okay. Let's try and...
Oh, sneak, stealth. I'm not good at stealth.
No, I did not think you were.
No.
I don't. Sorry, Jonny. Is it still daytime now? We're not nearing nighttime just yet, are we?
No, I think it is.
I
night
think
now.
it's quite late because it takes a long time to get back from the chapel, and then we've gone and rowed out to the lake, and then we've come back, and then now it's like
Okay.
evening.
You think you've probably got an hour until sunset, so then a little bit of light after that as well.
I also have no qualms about going around at night, just so we know.
Okay.
Yeah, but you don't have
Okay.
qualms about many
It might-
things. So.
I
It's true.
think-
It's true.
I
But
mean-
I'm also, but I feel like I'm a big guy with a sword. Like
I think
I'd
if we're
rather
going to
people
go, we should wait until dark.
Sure.
Well, if we're not that far from darkness, how about this then? We tell them that we were agreed to go to the ruins. We'll spend the last bits of the day gathering our supplies and preparing ourselves, but we give them confidence that we're going tomorrow to the ruins. No reason to doubt us, no reason to do anything, but also no reason for them to be suspicious if they see us wandering about the town. Whether that's now or just as it goes into darkness, if we say we're making our last preparations, gathering some herbs, the Demorthen should understand that that's something you would do, Fionn. I don't think we need to be overly secretive about this. Let's just make our promise and do our last little preparation. They don't need to know the details that preparation means visiting this specific location. And for all we know, there will be plenty of useful herbs there.
Very well, very well. Whoever's most subtle of all of us, perhaps just keep an eye out for someone tailing us, though. I really think we're leading someone to something they want us to find. I'm not comfortable with it.
I mean, I'm not going to suggest a third option. We've bandied around the bush too much already.
So we're making our excuses to go
Yeah.
look for herbs and make our preparations, and then we're going to head out, I suppose.
Okay. They put up little to no resistance. They're kind of... they know that you're not going to go today anyway. So at this point, they're sort of like, fine, do whatever. And we'll try again tomorrow.
We'll almost certainly go tomorrow. Probably.
Okay, so you're heading south into the forest.
Yeah.
And Sophia leads you all to the foot of another tree. And these, it's worth noting, the coordinates are pretty specific. They're sort of, maybe within a
Yeah. they're
2
very
or 3
specific.
meter square. So this is
They're using the three
the
word
foot
system.
of this tree is where it leads you to.
Dark fantasy with GPS.
I
Well,
guess. Should we
yeah.
light a torch and have a look if we haven't already got a torch lit?
I mean, yes. On the way there, I would have been, listening for anyone trying to follow us.
Yeah.
If there's a question, did we walk through the forest with a torch or did we walk by moonlight?
I think
guess
we
Sophia
didn't
was
need a
leading
torch
us.
for most of it.
You'd have had the setting sun to begin with, but it's quite heavy cover. So you probably would need a torch for almost all of it, I would say.
Yeah, I'll make a point of as well stopping and picking up some herbs along the way.
Why don't you guys have a look around? I will do nothing.
I mean, you could kind of double back a bit and keep an eye out if anybody is following us, if you're sneaky.
Happy to do that.
Okay. And we can look around this tree then, I guess.
Is there anything conspicuous?
Make perception rolls for me, please.
Mine is 8. But
It always seems like a cheat because I've got a +1 bonus of keen sight, but I'm always like, it kind of is eyesight, so I feel like I'm always using it.
If you're looking, you're using it.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I got a 10, but then rolled a 1 on my next one. So it's just a 15 overall.
Just a 15. Just a
I got
15.
13.
Wow.
13.
Okay, Sophia.
I was happy with my 8.
There
It's
is a
good for you.
section of earth at the base of this tree, which looks slightly different to the other bits of earth at the base of this tree.
Different, like potentially disturbed, or different, like
Not recently disturbed, but perhaps of a different quality, a different type of earth, maybe.
yeah, that's even more curious. I will point that out in particular to Fionn. Say, does this mean anything to you? Could
I
that
will.
Disturb the O horizon, Fionn.
If it just looks like Earth, I will put my hand into the Earth and lift some out and see what's going on.
Taste it. See what this is.
How far in are you digging your hand?
Yeah, not very far.
I
I'm just
might
scraping the
grab
surface
my.
to see what's going on with the soil.
I was gonna say, if seeing Fionn is gonna, be just. I was wondering if there might be anything else he might, other than that kind of exploration. I've got my staff. I might give things a little poke as well.
Maybe a natural environment roll.
So I picked up the soil specifically because you said it seemed like a different kind of soil, which is what I'm looking at it. I suppose is what I'm doing. But I haven't gone, elbow deep in it or anything.
Yeah. So it's a
peat loam. Peaty loam, like we got here, like sandy loam. Sandy silt loam, what we got here?
It's a section of, this sounds ridiculous, but it's like a brown earth. And what I mean by that is it's noticeably a different brown to what you would expect normal dirt to look like.
Like a high iron content.
That is quite, yeah.
And actually, upon noticing this about this specific area, you realize, as each of you do that have looked at this, that you have actually seen little pockets of this in a few different places. However, you are distracted from this momentarily as Sophia digs her staff around and hits something hard.
Well, that's slightly less scary than finding
Unless
something squishy and approaching us.
Releasing a centipede.
I was going to say, yeah, is it the top of the centipede's head?
Yeah.
Fionn is about to comment on how unusually brown this soil is, but then you distract me with the stuff.
Nothing can distract me from such a comment.
I think there's something underneath. Can we? Sorry, Fionn, if this means anything, if the soil itself means something to you, but I'm hang on, and then I'll start to dig a little bit, but throw the staff down, dig with my hands, to the point that it felt like I hit something.
I'll get my cooking pan out and use it as a shovel.
You pull out a sort of casket box about this big, with a metal catch on the front. No lock by the looks of it.
I might take a step back and say it as in like with the box. It maybe, I don't know what's going to be in here, but maybe it's safer for just one of us at first.
Does it look like you could dislodge the catch easily enough with a staff?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just put it down.
Oh,
Give it a poke.
The gang
sounds
opens
cool.
the box.
just with a finger, just about to put it down. And
Oh my god, they're killing me. This tension.
Yeah, you lift the lid, I presume, as well.
Yeah.
You see what looks like 2 scraps of paper in this box.
This is where Jonny tells us we're supposed to get this far. in this
More
first
paper.
session. That was just the first clue.
Yeah, let's have a look at the paper.
Okay. I'm going to re-share you something that I've already shared you, because you realize upon looking at the pieces of paper that you've already had the first half of this item. So I will share the first half first, just because it makes it all make sense. 855, experimentation on fossil flux. The fossil element shows entirely new properties in contact with plants. We were already aware of the weed-killing effects of this matter, but it displayed an amazing reaction. At the direct contact of fossil flux samples, the plants shrivel, rot, but do not die. On the contrary, after an incubation time, they start developing and growing. This would explain in great. So that was the part that you already had. And you realize after a moment that you have now received the completion of that statement. So in great part, the brown earth described by Loch Varn's de Morthen, which they attribute to spirits of nature. Such a clue indicates that there must be other pockets of fossil flux, and that our discovery was but a fragment of these. Even if it is impossible for the local de Morthen, it may well be that uncovering and draining these pockets would make the effects of this brown pestilence disappear. Signed, Verzel. So that's the first piece of paper that you grab.
Theon makes an audible noise of surprise.
And the second dated 857. Unfortunately, the war has spread to Tal Care. It is very likely that the greatest threat does not come from the armies of Gwydra, but from the obscurantism of Loch Varn's de Morthen. I suspect that he wishes to eliminate us. His threats were not followed by acts, but we must not take them lightly. He cannot stand that the fossil flux we have discovered may be at the origin of what he considers to be a manifestation of the spirit Glutta. At any rate, we are not safe here any longer. We are currently leading very complex research, and it would be a pity and even a danger if we had to suddenly halt them. This is why we are asking for important reinforcements to ensure our protection. I hope to receive your support very quickly. Signed, Verzel. And actually, on the back of this piece of paper is a map leading to what appears to be a secret laboratory hidden under Glutta's sanctuary. And upon completion of you reading these documents, you find yourself surrounded by an oppressive field of ruins made of twisted metallic beams and rubble, which fades into obscurity in the distance. Only a few torches lying on the floor are lighting the surroundings. Arrows and crossbow bolts are whizzing above the heads of you, who are squatting behind a pile of rubble, tightly holding your weapon against you. When things become somewhat quieter, you take a look around, meeting the fearful eyes of your comrades. And in this moment of quiet, as you're about to potentially try and make your escape into the darkness, Fulgur hears a metallic sound on his right, which immediately attracts your attention. And a man comes out of the shadows and faces the group, pointing a crossbow at you. Fulgur, protecting himself and his friends, fires his weapon at this man, who then collapses towards Fulgur. Fulgur knows this man to be his cousin. His cousin looks up at Fulgur and with his dying breath says, "You killed me." And that's where we'll leave it for this week.
Do it again. I do it again.
Damn it. God damn it.
Oh, Jesus.
Funny.
So mad. I knew we should have just left. Ah.
Oh no. You and your pesky Demorthans, Fionn.
It's not my fault. I told you there's always bad people everywhere.
That's the same thing. Oh dear.
Is
That's
this a vision? I can't.
I've got no idea.
How
I
is
just
this
been-
roleplay? I don't even know
It's the
anymore.
type
We've been
that
dreaming this whole time. At what point did the dream start? No.
We now
Fulgur's
know.
fun. Loves
We
this.
know that we now know what happened before. We haven't forgotten it because Fulgur knows who this is this time. So we got
Or at
something.
least for now. Maybe
Yeah, if when we wake up, yeah.
I 100% believe that next time that we are, in media res, then we are going to be beyond. We're not going to be going through all the stuff all over again. I think it will be. Well, who knows?
It's a game that never ends. We just keep
What we can do next week is we can just rebroadcast the first episode of the series.
see how long it takes people to notice.
I just think as long as we accept that Fionn is going to die, then everything will be okay.
I don't accept that.
Wow.
Well, thanks everybody for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, then put them in the chat now and we can pop them up and answer them. Wednesday nights, Simba Room, and Saturday, the 16th of April, I'm going to be running a game which is yet to be officially announced to anybody but patrons, I think, as to what it is, but it's going to be fun.
Ooh, very
For
exciting.
me.
Less exciting.
They're always fun for me.
What a sesh.
That
was good.
I'm stunned.
I'm not. I mean, it's like this whole thing's so crazy. It's just like you got to go with it.
I'm so mad.
See, I was thinking for a moment that whether it was a vision of what we saw initially was a vision of the Magiantists being slaughtered. But
Yeah.
why would Fulgur's cousin be? That's the timing's not right.
I think the only way out is through. We haven't got to the bottom of this yet. It's turtles all the way down.
Right, we need more visions.
This is but an intermediate phase before we ascend to higher things. That's just.
I swear, Jonny, if we wake up again in that same circumstance, I'm done. I'm leaving.
If
Rage
the
quit.
centipede doesn't kill Fionn this time, Fulgur is going to crush his head with a stone to make sure the visions come true.
Everything has to be. One of them will be the actual real one. It'll actually be there, and Fulgur will just kill me anyway.
Mm-hmm. This is an
I
dream. Crush.
I think for your information and viewer information, I think next week's will probably be the last of this story. Probably.
Because Fulgur bashes in Fion's head.
Yeah, we just can't play anymore if that's what you're going to do, Justin. When we got the 2 extra pieces of paper, I was honestly like, if this was like supposed to be this, he's supposed to get these clues. I'm like, session 2, and then we've been bumming around all of.
I thought we were doing quite well.
Loch Varn.
Yeah, we did a lot that session. We found
It
loads
was
of
good.
stuff.
It was good. It was good.
You have been doing well.
Really pushed
We're
it.
trying so hard not to get
I mean,
tricked and trapped.
you don't want to disappoint the villagers. They're just sitting there, like, tapping the watch. Like,
Oh, I don't care about disappointing the
get on
villagers.
with
I
your
don't trust
adventure.
one of them.
Get on with your
You might
adventure.
care.
We need you to get on with this thing. Come on.
I love the idea that Jonny has actually said next session will probably be the last, not because we nearly finished the mystery, but because we've done so badly that Jonny's basically resigned as just a failure now. But yeah,
I'm not doing
it's going to be your
I'm not
last.
doing anymore.
Oh dear.
No, you've been
we
doing well. You've been hammering through.
That's good. We should thank 4242 for resubscribing.
Yes, thank you.
With Prime. Thank you very much. And yes, we were asked earlier on what system this is. So we've answered that.
So the Shadows of Esteren game is a setting and system. The system's basically a D10 plus a stat, essentially. A little more complex than that, but it's basically roll a D10 and add a number. I think it's going okay. System. once you've
That's it.
character
Yeah.
creation can be a little fiddly when you're figuring out the ways and the stats and the specialisms and stuff. But once you've done it, it's just add a number, isn't it? It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a little clunky, but if it's but it does what it's supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Like it fits the setting well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you've kind of commented a few times. Some of the things you've kind of put numbers in are like not the most useful. Like, it does feel a bit
well.
weighted towards a couple of the stats, or
Yeah, it really does
more than
that.
others.
Like reason
so-
and empathy are the stats you should have, basically.
Yeah.
But then again, I've got 0 trauma from the entire game. So,
Yeah.
on the other hand, maybe having 5 in conviction is pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's just Timber Room on Wednesday, right? And then us back on Monday.
Very
Oh, I
exciting.
believe so.
The
Yeah.
next things on the channel.
Mhm.
Cool. So watch Timber Room on Wednesday, and then we'll see you on Monday.
Goodbye.